Hey all, it's Rabbi B here in Denver, Colorado, coming to you live on Facebook. Very excited to be speaking to you tonight, part two on the meaning experience. We have different experiences. I'm director of Soul Centered, and that's Soul Centered where we help guide people through loss, finding meaning, and ultimately emotional, spiritual, physical healing. Have different experiences. We have the soul experience, we have the healing experience, and we have the meaning experience. The meaning experience is really the foundation of my work as a logotherapist, Dr. Viktor Frankl. I'm just trying to get everything going here on our sharing it on our other page as well. We have a soul-centered Facebook group, and I would love for you to jump over there where we share it. Bottom line is, I'll just have to let that go. It's not working. There it is. One sec here. Okay, we're good. So, meaning experience is really founded on the work of Dr. Viktor Frankl, my teacher, my mentor. I never met him, but I have spent a lot of hours reading him and feeling like I've gotten to know him. The bottom line is I have been studying logotherapy and really have brought it into my life formally, though I've been really engaged and enthralled with it for about 20 years. Man's Search for Meaning, probably the most profound book I've ever read, and informative book I've ever read. And so really drawn a lot of wisdom, how to live life and find meaning. And so that's what the meaning experience is. I'm going to be exploring different themes of finding meaning in our life, particularly during difficult times, times of adversity, which is what we're all experiencing right now around the world. And this is a book and this is a philosophy built for adversity. Dr. Frankl bore out the truth of this book in the Holocaust. He's not only survived the Holocaust, he thrived in the face of the Holocaust, really brought a lot of goodness to the world during and after the Holocaust. And so I put a lot of faith into these concepts, into these ideas, and I apply them in my own life. I share them with my own clients, and I want to share them with you. So the meaning experience began couple days ago, not last week. I'm losing track of time. Are you losing track of time? It's really a crazy thing that's happening with the coronavirus being indoors and time. That's another conversation for another day. So began this conversation a couple days ago and talked about the central tenet of man's search for meaning and Dr. Frankl's logo philosophy and logotherapy. And that is, well, there's three basic tenets. Number one is that there's meaning in life. Always, under all circumstances. You know, it's not just in the good times, it's not just kind of these spiritual moments, but it's in all times, and the challenging ones in particular. There's meaning in what we're experiencing out in the world, in our own inner lives. And so that's the first tenet of logo philosophy. Logos means meaning, so meaning-centered philosophy or therapy. And the second one is that we are built for meaning. We are meaning creatures. We need meaning. It is like oxygen to us, to our soul. And so we seek out meaning as part of who we are. It's our DNA. And when we don't have meaning, we enter into real crisis. But if we have meaning, doesn't matter what our external circumstances are like, we can not only get through anything, we can transcend. And the third is that even when we can't control our external circumstances, we can control our internal circumstances, our attitude, our ability to respond. And that's really what I want to continue talking about, is our ability to respond when the world around us feels like it is giving us no choice, when we feel like we have no voice, when we have lost our usual ways of being in the world, and it just feels like we're out of control. My work with clients, working every day now with clients in what I call soul coaching or logotherapy, meaning-centered therapy, and combining the two, helping people find meaning, purpose, direction, particularly now at a time when it feels meaningless and purposeless and people feel adrift. And so we need to find those ways, those areas that we can control, we do control. And again, we always control our response. And when we control our response, we become responsible, and we're able to respond effectively to our life. It doesn't matter how big or how small our external circumstances are. It's independent of our ability to choose how to respond. And that's what we're talking about tonight. Our ability to respond, to choose how to respond to these unprecedented circumstances for each and every one of us. It's so easy to react, to just go inwards, to close down, right? To protect ourselves. And we need to. I mean, that is priority number one on the airplane, right? When the airplane is going down, at least that's what they tell you. I hope I never find out. What do? The oxygen mask drops. You put on the oxygen mask to take care of yourself. Because if you're not taken care of, you're not able to help others. And so we put the oxygen mask on ourselves, which is what we need to be doing, and we have been doing for the past few days, the past week. But that's not enough. We're not in it just to save ourselves, at least we shouldn't be. It's just not enough to live and to find meaning in life. We need to put the oxygen mask on so that we can help others put their oxygen mask on. And that's how we find meaning in life. So tonight is about self-transcendence. Life has meaning when we believe it has meaning, when we orient ourselves towards meaning, when we go looking for meaning, and when we choose to help others. That can be our meaning, right? Maybe there's nothing else we can do but put our oxygen mask on right now and help other people put their oxygen mask on. Without that shift, we end up as self-centered. Again, we call it soul-centered because that's the ideal. We have to start with self-centered. Again, nothing wrong, everything right with putting your oxygen mask on, with taking care of yourself. I've spoken a lot about that over the past few months. We need to put ourselves at the center. If we're not at the center, who is? And when somebody's in relationship with us, if we're not at the center of our lives, making time for our physical self, taking times for ourselves, then they're in relationship with a version of us, but it's not us. So we need to become self-centered, to orient ourselves, to get our bearings during the time of coronavirus or any time. So take some deep breaths, make sure we're protected, right? Make sure the basic needs of survival are taken care of, but that isn't enough, right? The ideal, I disagree with Maslow. More importantly, my teacher, Dr. Frankl, Viktor Frankl, disagrees with Maslow. I think Maslow even disagreed with Maslow towards the end of his life. The point is not to self-actualize, right? The top of that pyramid. Remember the kind of the basic necessities, and you keep ascending, and then the highest ascension in the self-centered life is to self-actualize. It's complete and total awareness of self. Dr. Frankl says you have to go one step further. Logotherapy, logophilosophy, meaning-centered living. You have to self-transcend. And that's the defining difference in a life well lived versus a good life, a solid life, but not the type of life that we look back on or other people talk about when we're gone that was truly impactful. You want to leave an impactful life, you want to lead an impactful life and leave an impactful legacy, then learn how to go from self-centered to self-transcendent. And there is no better time to do it than right now. The coronavirus and all that it is doing to the world is an opportunity for us to find meaning. Again, 1,000 ways to find meaning. We started last conversation talking about orienting ourselves towards meaning. This one is about moving beyond ourselves, self-transcending by reaching out to others, taking care of others, tending others, giving to others. A teacher of Dr. Frankl's and mine and many people is Martin Buber, existentialist philosopher who really talked about I, it, and I, thou. There are just two ways to orient yourself in the world. There's I, it. I relates to people or things as an it, right? And I use them to meet my needs because it's about me. It's a self, taking what I need from the world. But Buber says there's another way, an I, thou, to recognize something divine in another, in nature, in animals, in people, and relate to them as a thou, I, thou. And the moment when we make that shift, we self-transcend. We get beyond ourselves. We see that person. We see that environment, that whatever it might be, and the divinity in it, the holiness in it, the importance of it, and we relate to it differently. In that moment, we're getting beyond ourselves, we're self-transcending, and we're ultimately finding meaning. There is meaning in and of itself when we get beyond ourselves and we start thinking about others, seeing others, responding to others. And right now, this is a major challenge. during the coronavirus because everything around us is closing down. There's less and less places to go, right? Even just going on a walk is getting more complicated. My neighborhood association here just put out some new notices. Now there are restrictions on going out and walking. Can still do it, at least for now. The world is getting smaller and smaller, and many of us who are built for service, for giving, for doing, are saying, I don't know what to do. I'm not a healthcare provider. And by the way, thank God to all of our brave men and women out there who are in service industries like healthcare, putting themselves in harm's way to take care of others. For them, meaning is ripe. It's there all day, every day. But for the rest of us, the majority of us, those of us not in those specific service industries, how do we get beyond ourselves right now? How do we fight the natural inclination to shrink, to constrict, to retreat into our homes? We have to make a concerted effort to get beyond ourselves. It is not easy, but it is possible. I wrote a blog on it this week. I have never even imagined this amazing use of technology. My wife and I tonight have a date night with another couple. We're going to have some wine and talk and catch up over old times. My kids have had play dates, as I'm sure many of yours have, all week virtually. And on the one hand, I guess a month ago I would have thought it pathetic for my daughter to be literally walking down the street with her friend in her hand on the screen. Somehow it was beautiful this week. She was connecting, and she was giving, and she was receiving classes and all kinds of online offerings like this one. Ariella and I in Soul Center made a decision. We're not going to charge or even attempt to charge, even ask for donations. We just want to give during this time of retreat. The more we can give, we believe, the more good it's doing in the world. But also, selfishly, we also know it's good for us. We want to be able to give, to lend a hand, to do our part. It feels good for us. It's ultimately not why anybody truly gives, but it's an important thing to be able to do for yourself during this time of constriction and withdrawal during coronavirus. Finding ways to get beyond yourself, to self-transcend. Again, Dr. Frankl and Logotherapy, meaning-centered living, requires us to take care of ourselves, but then to transcend ourselves and to give in some capacity. So really thinking about different ways you can get beyond yourself once your basic needs are tended to. Maybe it's just picking up the phone and calling somebody that doesn't have somebody in their home. A good friend of mine, just lost his wife. He's grown, obviously he's grown. His kids are grown, they're off, and he's alone. For the first time in 50 plus years, he's alone in that home. And so I've made a concerted effort to give him a call. Note to self, call him when we hang up. But these are the types of opportunities so we can just start really racking our brains. How can I get past myself? And how can I give to another and see them? Again, Buber's I, thou. See the thou in them. Put myself into their shoes. What might I be able to do to give them something? Maybe it's going online and ordering food from a local joint that's going to keep them in business and having it delivered to your friend and just saying on a note, just thinking about you, miss you, and I love you. What are the ways that I can give and we haven't even thought about before? We haven't had to think about because we could go out into the world and get beyond ourselves. Again, I say this because all day, every day now, I'm working with clients, helping them get soul-centered, helping them deal with their anxiety and their fears and find purpose and meaning and direction when the world feels like it's imploding. And time again, we talk about, yes, self-centering, taking deep breaths, making sure you're taken care of, taking stock in what you do have, not what you don't have, but also then going beyond it, putting the oxygen mask on yourself and then helping other people put the oxygen mask on themselves. What is it that could be an oxygen mask for somebody else during this hour of need? How can we go out into the world, maybe not albeit physically, but certainly virtually, and give to others in 1,000 different ways? There are possibilities. I guess another point in this whole conversation during coronavirus is, do you want to find meaning? Do you want to find purpose? Right? Because in my experience, there are only two choices. Either something is meaningless or it's meaningful. Either life is meaningless or it's meaningful. If it's meaningful, then it's meaningful under all circumstances, not just the good times, not just the easy times, but the times like coronavirus, it can be meaningful. But meaning has to be worked towards. It has to be, effort has to be put into it. And again, Dr. Frankl talks all about meaning in logotherapy, meaning-centered therapy, and logophilosophy, meaning-centered philosophy. About meaning is unique to you. I can't tell you what your meaning is. Your meaning is different than my meaning. Life offers each of us our own curriculum, our own meaning. This coronavirus is presenting to each and every one of us similar challenges, but unique challenges. What is challenging to me may very well not be challenging to you. But what is common to all of us is this idea that in order to truly find meaning during times like these, we need to take care of ourselves, center ourselves, and then we need to move beyond ourselves, right, to self-transcend and give to others. So I encourage you to all find ways to reach out and give to others, because this is how we will not only survive during this coronavirus. Who wants to survive? It's a starting point, I agree, but it's not an end point. We are not here to survive. We are here to thrive and to help other people thrive. And we do that by putting ourselves at the center, taking care of our needs, getting calm and finding a sense of security. And once we have that, once we have those bare basics met in our lives, it is incumbent upon us to then go out into the world, if not physically during this coronavirus time, then virtually, and find ways to help others thrive. And so that's my hope and prayer for each and every one of us. That's what this meaning experience is all about. And that's what Ariella and I are doing. And we're all about Soul-Centered. The organization we started, I think in some ways, just in the nick of time, is about finding meaning and purpose and direction and inspiration through loss, through life's trials and transitions and traumas and tragedies, to find meaning and purpose. And that's what we do. That's what I do. I work with clients now exclusively virtually, either video conference on Zoom or phone calls. And we talk for about an hour a week. Logotherapy, meaning-centered conversation and counseling infused with Kabbalah, mysticism, Jewish mysticism. It's for anybody of any religion or no religion, spiritual inclined or not spiritually inclined, doesn't matter. It's about cultivating our self and our soul so that we feel strong and we feel focused and we feel clear and we feel inspired, so that we can, again, not only survive during this time of coronavirus and afterwards, but learn to truly thrive. We'd love to work with you. Right now I'm offering complimentary sessions because I know that this is a time of anxiety and panic and doubt and fear. And again, this is my way of serving and of self-transcending and of giving to you. And so if you're interested, shoot me an email, Rabbi B at soulcentered.org, or you can just go to the website, mysoulcentered.org, or you can find 10 different ways to get in touch with me. I would love to hear from you. I'd love for you to join the Facebook group if you're not already on there, the Soul-Centered Facebook group, and join our newsletter. Stay in touch with all of our offerings. Right now we're offering a Soul-Centered experience every night, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, Saturday mornings. We are doing the Shabbat Soul-Centered experience for anybody of any religious tradition to help you find your center and find some calm in a very chaotic time, and a lot of other offerings. So with that, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night at the Soul Experience. Ariella and I do every Thursday night, which is more of a meditative, chanting, contemplative conversation. So we'll see you there. Until then, shalom, salam, namaste, and peace.